So how could somebody reasonably die saving you?
It would probably have to be by getting me out of horrendous debt. Whether they do that with their hands physically, or I don't know. Maybe
literally
the debt,
shoveling you out of debt.
Yeah, or the debt is represented by a shark. So it would definitely revolve around the debt.
I told you to go to a loan shark, not this.
Not a shark. Ben Elton's really gone downhill.
All I know is I owe all of my money to this shark now.
He's very shrewd.
That is both useless and trash. Don't die for us. For God's sake. I'm Paolo Sauruta.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm Paul. Hey, how's it going? Yoroshiku Onagashi Masu, everyone. I know how that would... I don't know, I feel like I have to point out that I do know how to pronounce those words. Because you hear someone like me say it and go,
Irishimas. Sue.
Sorry, Sue.
Sue, we are going to try and do something very different with our decade episodes from now on.
You idiots.
Or until fans demand that we go back to praising 90s action movies and noughties comedies alternately.
Oh well, incidentally, I don't know how to check Twitter and Facebook anymore.
You can't make us go back. There was an idea that was this podcast. Or rather, the rejection of an idea. That idea was that when it comes to movies, they don't make them like that anymore. Yeah. Which isn't true. That's only true of chairs. They literally can't make them anymore. Too much political correctness. You just can't make a chair the way they did in the 60s.
No. Immigrants don't like it.
They just don't. They want no one have it. And we have to just be okay with that, I guess. Yeah, we've always hated the golden age thinking that suggests that we are incapable of creating classic movies right here in the when and where.
Same applies to music and any art, really.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
any art.
Pure cynicism.
Anyone who says, oh, no, everything after Super Mario World, can't have it. Hate it. You know, it's just not. It's not.
Devil May Cry 3. Ugh. Watershed.
Golden Age.
Yeah.
Devil May Cry 4. Fucking knife in the back. So every 10 episodes, we're going to highlight a movie that we think just might be worthy of usherance alongside the works of your Fellinis and your Mitsuguchis and your Vadas and Rays and Cormans. And we're going to eschew vulgar pleasures and Richies. Just, you know. All the greats. And we're going to eschew the vulgar pleasures of genre. Mm-hmm. And we're going to look outside of our top tens to find the modern masterpieces that will inspire us to say, 30 years from now, G. They don't make them like that anymore.
Twist.
My wife-husband robot is going to be called G.
You would have programmed him to be extra patient.
Sure, for Google. We will all be married to it in 30 years.
Doesn't sound too bad, to be honest.
No, that's okay. Oh, what was the name of that song? That song was called...
They don't make them like they used to.
Wife-husband robots. Where better to begin than Hirokazu Kore-eda's 2008 family drama, Still Walking.
兄さんの時はもっと違ったじゃない。
順平は跡取りだったんだ。あいつは勝手してここ出てったんだから。
Kore-eda has been making absolutely fantastic drama. I genuinely almost went to say drama. Drama film. Oh, fuck, I'm an asshole. For the past 30 years exactly. I really hope we can court the high-class cinema audience with this episode.
Japanese is funny.
I first saw Shoplifters when that was huge a few years ago.
Huge.
Which led me on to seeing almost all of his films, although not his English and French language debut, The Truth, which starred Catherine Deneuve, Juliette Binoche, and Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, what are you
Get
doing,
out of here,
Ethan?
you.
Jolly.
Get out. Oh, look, I've got a watch that stops time. No. Get off. Not what we're doing here, Ethan.
You scamp. It's not for you.
None of this is for you. Go back to your, what's his fucking name? Valerian and a Thousand Planets. Luc Besson. No.
Jolly
yes?
the Pimp. Yeah.
Is it Luc Besson?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was mixing up with Robert Bresson. Two very similar men.
Crucial mix-up.
I'm sure everyone will agree. But yeah, I love Kore-eda's work very dearly, as do the critics. Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? Roger Ebert at the Chicago Sun-Times says Kore-eda has produced profoundly empathetic films about human feelings. He sees intensely and tenderly into his characters. Right up them.
Intenderly.
Good old look into the tender bits of the
Right up
characters. And that's what I love about him and Gaspar Noé. So, the public, meanwhile, well, there's no Avengers in it, so they probably just, they liked it too!
Oh, what?
Well, let me just check these 6 reviews on Google and pick the best one. Olaf Marley on Google said, what a beautiful film. One can see, that families are the same all over the planet, we loved it.
Aw. I mean...
It's like a poem.
That's Proust right there. Perfect sentence.
A haiku? It might be. Celador, it's the perfect sounding sentence. Utterly meaningless, but absolutely impeccable in terms of its aesthetic.
Don't need to make sense when you're Proust.
That's what he always said. That was his catchphrase.
That and garlic bread.
What was that, Marcel?
Garlic bread. Although he was French, so it's probably like cheese sandwiches. What's that like? What's that about?
It is the future. I've seen it. So, the film has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
7.9 on IMDb.
Oh.
And, it's not Avengers Endgame, is it?
Yeah,
and won Best Director for Kore-eda at the Asian Film Awards. I haven't had to have an awards part of this sentence before.
No. Was it nominated for any part of the Oscars? Best foreign language shoes.
Shoes. Oh my god, the shoes in this. No, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if it was submitted or not for best foreign film.
Probably
I know Shoplifter.
Shouldn't fucking bother. Yeah.
I think Our Little Sister was, but
okay.
I'm not sure about this.
See, I saw Shoplifters.
Yes.
Same year, obviously.
Yes.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Was surprised at how evocative it was of family. And just how immediately likable it was. And and then I saw this a couple of days ago.
Excellent. Perfect.
I went, oh yeah, he exists.
Oh yeah, he's the best. So, Paul, you brown butterfly.
Going through the mental Rolodex of Japanese words that I could say in a silly way, but...
Imananji desu?
Watashi? Watashi wa?
Watashi wa? No, Japanese people don't often use it. Anyway, what's one thing about Still Walking that made you not want to shuffle off to your room and close the door gently?
Well, the sister in it had a bit of a Leslie Manville quality, Paul.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, not
her
as
silliest.
Not as desperate
not Phantom
as,
Thread.
Yeah, and not Another Year, which will be coming up at some point in the future.
Oh no, foreboding! Very direct foreboding. Yeah. It'd be like if in Marvel, Kevin Feige came in and said, "It's gonna be Thanos in the next one." Right? Bye.
Then we'll have to release YouTube videos like all the Easter eggs teased in Kevin Feige's speech.
All the Easter eggs and subtle references in the most recent episode of One Good Thing.
Yeah.
Now in England, balls often mean testicles. Holy shit! I've just understood the last 4 years. All right, let's get into this premise, this big old juicy premise.
Yeah.
It's a very high concept family drama.
Yeah. If any of this seems tinged with pain or regret, listeners at home, I'm dealing with a large mucosal lump on the inside of my mouth, which is making speech
mucosal
very difficult and very horny. So
fuck yeah.
Let's get on with it.
I can hear it sloshing about when he speaks, folks.
Oh, it's like a spirit level. Traders that just can't get enough of me.
Getting his chin on a shelf. No, it's way up. So, with that image firmly implanted in your head, let's walk you through this melodic picture of an elegiac sort of portrait of a Japanese family. So, a family are coming together to commemorate their dead eldest son, Junpei.
Yes.
It's an old retired doctor, is the head of the family. Well, traditionally speaking. His old doctor's wife, who definitely is the head of the family, because we all know how it works.
Yeah.
And they've already got their married daughter, Chinami.
Yeah.
And her rubbish husband and 2 adorable kids.
Yeah. Baldrick and...
Percy.
Yeah.
They asked the old dad if he can pick something up at the shops, but he doesn't want to. And the mum explains, it's because everybody wants to see him still. He wants everyone to see him as a doctor still. Yeah. Doctors never carry bags of groceries. We know this.
I've never seen one.
No, because when they get hungry, rather than eat, they just heal themselves of the maladies that come of not eating. It's a show of a good doctor.
They inject themselves with the hunger vaccine, which is also known as speed.
As their organs break down, they just quickly, fix them back up again. A really good doctor never needs to eat or drink.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a doctor eat? I haven't. And if you have, they're a fraud, and you should get them.
Attack them physically immediately. Oh, God. So, yeah, he goes off for an old man walk whilst the women do their very best to make vegetables look appealing to me. Pretty good job. Better than most British people would manage.
Yeah, my first 17 notes are about food, so they did a pretty good job.
There's more people coming because the eldest surviving son, Ryuta, his widowed wife, ex-widowed now? Now that she's remarried?
I guess in that society, it's just once a widow.
Yeah. Once a widow, always a widow. And her son, his stepson, they're all coming on the train. And the kid is playing on his eggshell blue Nintendo DS. He's everything that's wrong with his generation. Awful. The mum of the family, though, reveals herself to be a bit of a monster because she indicates to her daughter that the living son would have been better off going for a divorcee than a widow, because at least then she'd have chosen to leave.
Yeah.
Wait, does that even work by mean logic? Isn't it better to have not chosen to leave?
Yeah.
Whatever she chose is wrong.
Look, I hate widows, alright? And I just need to express that somehow.
Although I don't need to bat myself up, I just hate them.
Yeah.
Bad alive son's stepkid has been laughing about rabbits dying. This is easily my favourite Michael Myers origin story. I'm going to give it away now. I think this is better than Rob Zombie.
Well, it's so unassuming, and
so subtle. In fact, I don't know if you missed the post-credit sequence where it actually outs itself as a Halloween prequel.
No, now
it is there.
I think you realise at this point, Paul, that I, like everyone else, always watches and waits for a post-credit sequence, assuming that there is going to be one at the end of every film.
You just see a gravestone that says Junpei on it, and a hand reaches through. Dun, dun, dun.
Julie Louis-Dreyfus is there.
Oh, fuck me. Well, look, the family are busy being human beings in the kitchen, which is to say being noisy and irritating. So the old Dr. Dad is rightly having none of it, and he shuffles off to his room. You can already tell he's the hero of this. Fuck that.
Unsung, mate.
Nobody is acknowledging how amazing everything he's doing is. Oh, God. But yeah, alive son's family arrive. And old Dr. Dad does manage to ruin everybody's time in like 2 sentences, which is great.
It's a skill. It's
I can already
real
tell
knack.
he's the hero.
Yeah.
What he does is he comes in and just makes a comment about Terrible Son's widow wife being here.
Yeah.
Just, she's here.
Yeah.
And just walks away.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty effective. Pretty succinct.
Hi, Dad.
Well, the son has nothing left to do but walk a melon around the house for a while. He's everything wrong with his generation. Just wandering around with this melon, looking for a purpose.
Not even a millennial.
He's got nothing else to do. He goes out and hangs out with his dead brother's Joy Division poster. Or maybe he was all right with dying.
Yeah. Maybe he wanted to save that kid.
It's like, oh, hey, there's plenty of room for you on this thing now. Nope. Oh, God, the kids have gotten a hold of the melon. You had one fucking job, terrible alive son. Junpei could have kept that melon away from kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but he was all saying, haha, I, Ryuta, the youngest son, have kept the melon. That was obviously me.
Oh, what was that, son? Oh, never mind. Just gonna... Alright, you tall weirdo.
You fucking freak, son. Hey, we need a topic for our lunch thing that we're having. Hey, isn't Terrible Alive Son rubbish? Can't even fucking drive. Jesus. God, his brother was good. He was fantastic. It's a shame that one died.
He drove so many times. Do you know how many cars he crashed because he drove all the time?
He was no good at it, but at least he tried. More than you can do.
Yeah. Unlike you, not even trying to be alive.
When's the last time you got into a car crash? Never.
See? What? Where's that watermelon? Oh, I remember.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We'll ask the children.
Who are opening it with a fucking baseball bat. They haven't even seen the melon scissors we've got over there.
I'm a doctor, you know.
Yeah, they all have a laugh whilst the dad seems genuinely irritated to have anybody in the house.
Yeah.
An absolute hero. He decides to say one thing this lunch, again putting down the widow.
Yeah, what is it that he says?
They're talking about a different widow, I think. They're talking about
it's a good
widow.
thing that Junpei died when he did. He didn't have kids, so it's easier to remarry.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and meanwhile there's a widow with kid just sat right there.
Who's just going, harmony, harmony, harmony.
Everything's fine. I'm at peace. At least 3 of the people in this room I can get on with.
One is me.
I can get on with myself, just about. Later on, the daughter foolishly tries to get the doctor dad involved in what they're doing. Why would you do that? Who's that going to help? Never do that with an old man.
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Because he's not going to be a gracious loser. Yeah, I was wrong.
But while she's there, she does say, hey, how about you lay off your son's widowed wife? He's the bad son! The good one's dead. Not doing anything like that.
The wrong kid died.
Where is she? I want to throw something at her.
He says Rhea's a traitor, he left the family. That
Yeah.
is that by marrying the widow or by not dying?
By not becoming by not becoming a dead doctor. That's what they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look.
That's the dream.
He's got
Every
no time to
parent.
become a doctor now because he's off talking on his mobile phone. Just worst generation. So little Michael Myers
Jesus.
goes poking around the house. Really just asking to be attacked by the grandpa. I wait for him to descend like the alien. He finds his drug collection, and I have to make the note. Oh wow, he was way more organized with his drug collection than my dad was. But he does. They do have a meeting. The little grandkid and Dr. Dad. And he says, "What do you want to be when you grow up? Piano tuner? You piece of shit. Give me your fingers."
Yeah. You want to be a doctor, don't you?
I became a doctor because my dad got sick. Did it work? No, he died. But you should consider it. And middle son comes, not middle son, terrible alive son comes in and says, this kid will never be a doctor. What a rebellion that's going to be for this kid. What are you doing in there? Nothing. And he's trying to shove a stethoscope into his pocket.
Operating on next door's gran.
Is that an appendix? No.
I know an appendix when I see it when I'm a doctor's son, you know. Shame we didn't do anything with it. What was that? Nothing.
You'll continue to be you stack those shelves.
I didn't drop out of 7 years of medical school for this.
You're going to shelf stacking college, damn it. The family all go and visit the son's grave and find that someone else has left flowers there. We'll get that shit out of here.
Yeah. Disgusting strangers' flowers.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Kick it.
The shitty flowers out of here.
Yeah, and on the walk home, it's time for some classic mother-son chat.
Yeah.
So, you thinking of having kids? Oh, no, not this conversation. Because you definitely shouldn't. It'll make it harder to leave that bitch. Okay.
Can we go back to the annoying bit?
Good talk, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. I look forward to our next one. I know you do. Just you wait.
God, it's a long walk, isn't it, though? If only one of us had a car. Hating this.
It's a shame widows aren't allowed to drive.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever have to know one. But look, suddenly we have a new face in the house. There's a sturdy shirt and tie lad who's struggling hard to find work, it seems, and also something to talk about with the family.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the guy the son died saving.
Yeah.
Ugh. Now he's trying to live his life for Junpei as well.
Yeah.
Certainly eating enough for both of them. Oh, you see, I'm just like them.
Oh my god, you're just
I'm
as bad
just
as
like
that
them.
shitty family for jerks.
I am that shitty family for jerks. We all are. That's what Kore-eda was definitely saying with this awful film.
He came out at the end like Lars von Trier and pointed straight at us.
He was holding a mirror, and it didn't work. It was just showing the camera, but, you know, we all got what he meant.
He said, "Sumimasen, you're the jerks."
Yeah, the guy kind of fumbles his way out of the house, and everyone talks about what an absolute hole of a man he is. It's the happiest they've all seemed all day. Even the dad gets involved. It's nice to have a bonding
It's
activity.
amazing. Well, except for least favourite non-dead son.
Oh no, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
He's unhappy, and he suggests, well, maybe Junpei wouldn't have been so great if he lived either.
And
Everyone just stares at him.
7 minutes of silence.
You son of a bitch.
Of all the low, widow-loving things you could have said.
That's something that only someone who couldn't drive would say.
It's the same part of the brain. You only have space for one. Brother hate or driving.
We all know what you picked. So later on, the sister's family have left, so it's just down to parents, bad son, his widow wife, and little Michael Myers. It's going to be a hell of a night. It starts well. They bond over how dumb the mum is for not liking cordless phones and how unsophisticated she is. Everybody's having fun.
Well, we're back to the status quo, which is everybody hates the mum and just relentlessly abuses her, regardless of what she says, feels, or does.
Well, she does. You know, at least there's some good stuff coming out of this. You know, let's lighten things up a bit. You like music? He wasn't even there when his son died. What kind of music do you like? I kind of like Miles Davis. He sings rubbish Japanese ballads. He's a clown, a painful clown,
A fat, painful clown. And
oh well.
yeah, okay, well,
I guess it's nice that they have a romantic song. Oh, the dad doesn't know that it's their song. Oh, it's not really their song. She overheard him singing it at some woman's apartment, and then went out and got the CD.
And he didn't know that she knew.
No, so it isn't so much a nice thing that they share as much as a painful grudge she's held on to in secret for decades.
Yeah,
but that's nice too.
It's nice that they've got something to talk about.
I'm hoping I'll have time for that many grudges when I get old.
It's a thing, you know. You think, God, is it even going to be worth holding on to any? You don't realise. It's like a pension. You think, oh, I'm not going to worry about paying into it right now. and then when you're old, you just realise how many grudges you could have had and how that would have kept you going.
Absolutely. I didn't piss off nearly enough people. Speaking of holding on to stuff, hey, how come you keep tormenting that boy for something that wasn't his fault? It just makes me feel better. So you are doing it on purpose. Yeah, I'll continue to do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Also, you're not a real dad because you only adopted that kid.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
Yeah. and I can't remember the name of that sumo wrestler that you were talking about.
It doesn't matter. I'm leaving. Good night. So,
yeah.
3 generations of men end up in the toilet together, and chaos ensues. By which I mean the dad tries to start a conversation about work, and the son shoots it down. Yeah. So the dad tries to tell him to call home more often, and the son shoots it down. Yeah. And then they get within a country mile of the thing that's actually causing the tension between them, so they both run away. Yeah. Actually, it's not a bad result, comparatively.
Boys done well.
Good talk, Dad. Oh shit! Here comes the actual action of the film. Dan. There's a butterfly in the house.
No, we've got a 45-minute sequence. There's only one way to get rid of this. Dream within a dream.
The mother thinks it might be Junpei. The dad and the son don't think so much that it might be Junpei.
Yeah.
He still decides to delicately pinch it by the wing.
Yeah.
Which is just not what I try and do to get it out of the house. It would immediately die slowly if I did that.
It would crumble to pieces. It would fritter away in a Thanos snap if you touched it.
And it would look at you as if to say, why? But he manages to do it. Yeah. He's a wonderful man.
What a lovely, delicate man.
He's a lovely, delicate man, and he takes it out to the garden, and the whole family watch it fly into the night, except the Dr. Dad, who manages to manifest a newspaper out of nowhere to visit himself with.
If you wish it hard enough.
You just find it and scrutinize it. And that's all you're going to get from us. Yeah. Go watch this movie.
Yeah.
Or should you? Paul, what did you think of Still Walking?
Yeah, you should probably go and see it because, otherwise you're not going to know what happens to the butterfly. But
all sorts of adventures.
But also, you know, it's a fairly good one of my favorite films of all time movies. So,
one of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
I like those movies.
Yeah, and on the spectrum of those, it's on, you know, of my favorite films of all time. It's like it's in there.
Yeah, well, it's definitely on there. Yeah, sure.
You know, in the middle somewhere of the best films I've ever seen.
Just best movies ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a damn near perfect movie.
Christ,
It's fucking wonderful, really.
Yeah.
Put that on the box.
It's fucking wonderful, really. Move over care mode.
Stephen King. If he said it, it would be on there.
Care mode. Care mode, do. Anyway, to begin with, I was. It's a kitchen sink essentially, but it's
without the melodrama.
Yeah, the Japan sort of lends it an exoticism as well. And that was something a note I made in the first 2 minutes, and then the note I made immediately after that was sometimes doing this job of, you know, watching shitty movies. You do forget what it's like to watch truly great movies. Watching endless slew of crap can put me off of the prospect entirely. Sometimes the thought of going home to watch a movie, you think, why would I do this? Because I associate this experience mostly with pain, and having to make notes. And
yes,
but this immediately from the first conversation when the sister and the mum are preparing radishes, and they're just talking about the best way to prepare radishes, and then they're peppering that conversation with little bits about the people they know or things that are just going on, and just the way they talk about the people they know immediately gets across their characters.
いいわ、どうせ作んないし。ほら、うちのファミレス育ちで味音痴だから何作っても一緒なの。
じゃあなんで聞くのよ。
母さん喋りたいかなと思って。
だから、口より手動かしなさいよ。もうじきお昼になっちゃうんだから。
Yeah.
You fall in love with them immediately, even though they are, you know, flawed or vindictive people at times. Not all of them, but some of them. or selfish or whatever. They're just so they're so real. You know them instantly. You know them so intimately. That's that feeling of instantaneously, intimately knowing a film is something that is something that is lost when you dedicate your time to watching shitty movies. And it was such a wonderful thing, such a wonderful realization.
Yeah. I think that's going to be another positive aspect of covering the great movies, is that every 10 episodes we're going to watch something to really remind us, because it tends to be very bottom heavy, this endeavor. You know, we get to March and suddenly we watch, you know, a load of 2020 sort of films from the last year in order to fill up our top 10s, and we have, you know, overflow of just amazing films that numbs us to it. I think spreading it out like this, sort of watching these, you know, great films, is really going to help us recalibrate, aside from anything else.
Yeah.
Help us remind us of just why some of these films really could be doing better.
Yeah.
But also just, reconnect with what it is about film that is the reason we want it to be better. You know, One Good Thing was always meant to be constructive, and I think it's good to remind ourselves of what can be achieved when this is done well.
Really essential touchstone.
Because our sassy plot rundown, you know, isn't going to have gotten across just how immaculate the family interactions of this film are, how well observed the characters and nuanced as well, how subtly involving the staging and camera work is, and just how poignant the kind of sadness and disappointment at the heart of the whole thing is. Yeah. It's just a really beautifully well-observed drama about the strength and shortcomings of family.
Yeah. Because, the silly plot rundown would suggest melodrama, but you're right, there is none, despite some of the horrible opinions that the people have. It's all very very much within this rigid idea of society and norms, but also the war that's happening between these characters is so internalized that things like Ryo
Ryota.
Yeah, but he's called Ryo, isn't he?
Yes. They call him. Do they call him that?
Yeah. Well, the subtitles that I had for my copy.
Oh, okay.
did.
Fair enough. Shorthand, lazy subtitles.
Oh, fuck it. They know what I mean. Played by Hiroshi Abe. Who was amazing.
He was
really
fantastic.
Wonderful looking man as well.
Yeah, he's got a great characterful face.
6'2" Adonis. Yeah, really expressive and really harboured the resentment well. Yeah. And there's one moment where he just backchats his dad when he's trying to have a conversation with him, and it felt like such a victory, despite the fact that it was just a shitty little thing to say after an afternoon of having to put up with his bullshit. Yeah, like the restrained and strained nature of it all. Yeah, made all these tiny moments feel so dramatic. But the nuance really is something that I can't stress the nuance heavily enough.
Yeah, and there's a really interesting serenity to the whole film, partly due to the fantastic score, but just the subdued way of filming. It's almost at odds with the tension and unease that most of our characters feel. But the effect of that is a sense that all of this isn't really a problem as such. It's just how things are. This isn't a plea that somebody come and fix how our family dynamics. This is just how they work, including the grudges and the unkept promises and all the compromises that have been made in order to just about keep these people tethered together. Yeah. You know, this isn't an American movie where everyone's going to learn an important lesson and grow closer, you know, than ever come the end. You know, and this doesn't feel like this is the most important day for this family. It's just a day. And it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful in what it accomplishes and just portraying, because it is just a day that they show. It's almost literally 24 hours, I think, because they're making lunch at the beginning of the movie and then they depart just after a morning walk, you know, the next day. So it's just a day in their lives, and it's just wonderful for that. Yeah,
it really is. The house itself, to begin with, I wrote that the house felt like a character in its own right, but actually after a while it fell so deeply into the background that you almost forget about its existence. It was framing. Yeah. It felt like a place of safety. It was like the film had established the zone in which the events were going to take place. Yeah. It was just a really transportive effect. I don't know why. The house itself felt very much the only place this film could have happened. I don't know how to describe that any better, but it was just something about it. Whereas the opposite would be Parasite.
Okay, yeah, where the house is very much the point of, like...
Yeah.
It's very much tied into the theme of what's going on and is emblematic of the central conflict, which is one of class, because the house is a manifestation of class.
Yeah. Whereas the family, at the point of conflict and the harmony that... Especially, it got me thinking about harmony in Japanese society, which... Since visiting Japan, it's kind of roiled around in me this idea of a collectivist society working towards this idea of what the society should be. Which, in fact, we do seek that kind of harmony ourselves, and it's in family get-togethers and things like that. You bite your tongue when you want to scream at someone or so on and so forth, because it's not the proper thing to do. Similarly, that time that I was asked to leave Leicester Square when I stripped down and started crying. It's just not what you're supposed to do.
Or the worst people who ask you to stay.
Yeah. But they're your best friends, the people who ask you to stay. There was something really effective about looking through this movie through the lens of the other, as if this foreign society with supposedly different ideals. Also just emphasizing how we really practice it daily. It's so much is coming off of the characters. Everything hinges on these characters and how they interact. And if the dad is shuffling around the house, the framing of those shots does help emphasize that it's his space and he wants his own. He needs this time to himself, and he hates the intruders in his home, but it's nothing really that the house is doing. It's everything that's happening within.
Yeah, it is very character driven in that way, and it's just. Yeah, it has this sublime naturalness to it, and the sense of the town as well, the wider town that they're in. Because it was filmed in like a neighborhood sort of south of Tokyo, so it's meant to be sort of suburban, I think. It doesn't necessarily have the feel of a village, because it's fairly sprawling, when you get a look at the skyline and such. The way in which the community kind of relates to the serenity of the overall filmmaking, if not necessarily the characters, really just emphasizes that this is kind of an age-old thing, and although, as we'll come to in a moment, aspects of modernity are definitely in there, this is more, rather than being about anything topical, is just more about the nature of human beings and how they relate to each other in a family. It's a much more personal kind of thing.
To go more personal for me as well, it looks identical to a place that we stayed in Tokyo.
Right.
It was on the sort of southeastern suburbs. But the small pathways between the houses and everything just...
I love that. For some reason, I really loved the footbridge that we see. There's a footbridge over a road. It has these little steps and such. I don't know. It's shown prominently twice. And I don't know why, but I just really love it. It really is very evocative for me. I feel like I don't know. I have a sense of that.
Because it's so utilitarian and at odds with the aesthetic. Because the first time we see it, the father's walking through this idyllic part of Tokyo. He's lived a long life and he's earned his spoils, and then he gets to this main road and a very functional footbridge that's metal and kind of rusting. And he just sighs and carries on.
Maybe that's interesting, because later on he uses it quite happily with his family to get to the beach together. So maybe that's him sort of seeing the practical nature of the functional side of things.
I guess it also connects to the beach. Yeah, it also connects to the beach where is that where Junpei died?
Oh, is that implied? I didn't catch that.
I don't know, but I wonder.
Oh, interesting. Well, look, one thing that we're also going to try and do, where possible with our great films, is compare them to a pre-established and widely recognized classic. And the obvious, although possibly incorrect, we'll come to that, pairing for a Kore-eda film is a film by Yasujiro Ozu, a Japanese filmmaker best known for his work in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I've seen a lot of Ozu because my mother really loves him and his films. Mainly his films. Him as well. He's just wonderful.
He's dick.
Oh, man. You don't want to know about it. Weirdly, I do. I've seen everything from late spring onwards, essentially. So most of his sound films. He makes movies about Japanese families and is particularly interested in the way in which generations relate to each other. And a lot of his films are actually all about the point where people grow up old enough that they get married and leave their parents and the impact that has on both parties. Am I thinking you hadn't seen any before?
I hadn't seen any. I owned one and didn't even realize that it was Ozu. So.
Well, excellent. And where better to start than with that film, which is his most critically acclaimed and widely seen. It's 1953's Tokyo Story.
Yeah.
Very frequently considered one of the best films ever made. It's a movie about two parents who decide to visit their adult children in Tokyo, all of whom are too busy to really spend any time with them. They connect most closely with the woman who was married to their son, who is presumed dead in the war 8 years ago. So what did you think of Tokyo Story?
Oh, I loved it for very similar reasons. Not that I loved all the characters in the same way that I did in Still Walking, because I found the characters more accessible in Still Walking. But some of the characters in Tokyo Story were just immediately likable.
Yeah.
And they were all really great just to be around because of the performances.
You know what's really weird is I found that the families mirrored each other quite nicely. If I was I was thinking partway through Still Walking, if I was gonna stitch together a perfect family from these two movies, who would I take? And it's really easy. I would have the parents of Tokyo Story, like the grandparents, and then I would have their youngest kids, then Still Walking's oldest kids, and then Still Walking's grandchildren. And I feel like then that would slot together so neatly. There's very little overlap in terms of who the nice ones are.
But would that include the widow in Tokyo Story?
Oh yeah, I've got to have the widow in Tokyo Story, Noriko.
She's the best.
She's the best one, and that is she's played by, damn it, I've forgotten her name. Hara is her surname.
Well, whilst you're looking for that, she is the best example of like maintaining harmony in that movie. The sort of facade that she has to maintain throughout as the widow who's still devoted to her dead husband.
Yes, weirdly, and I want to come to that actually. Her name is Setsuko Hara, and she's in so many of Ozu's films, along with Chishu Ryu, who played the father, who's only actually 49 years old at the point when he's playing this character. He's
really?
He's 6 years older than the guy playing his son.
Wow.
So
okay.
he gives an amazing performance. They're both so nuanced and kind of, it's just the tiniest things. But I think the comparison is apt. We'll come back to Widows. Both are about families and intergenerational tension. Interestingly, the older parents are more sympathetic in Tokyo Story, whilst the younger generations are more sympathetic in Still Walking. And I wonder what that says about societal attitudes, but also maybe Ozu was older at the point when he made Tokyo Story than Kore-eda is.
Is
here.
Ozu more of a stoic than Kore-eda, maybe? Because the parents in... you know them both quite well, personally. Tell me.
Yeah.
No,
because the
parents...
filmography. Curious. Definitely younger people feature more frequently and from the perspective characters in Kore-eda, I think. There are young professionals and younger people in Ozu's films, but
I mean, in Tokyo Story, they're always talking about how busy they are and complaining.
They can, absolutely. But the parents, it's weird because the parents are very mannered and very polite, but you do get the impression there's a lot of darkness there as well. There are allusions made to the dad's alcoholism, for example.
Yeah.
And his destructive impact on the family.
Yeah. And there are brilliant moments in there where they're on the bus on that tour of Tokyo, which interestingly doesn't show you any of Tokyo. You see it from inside the bus with the...
Just like the top of the Imperial Palace.
Yeah. And then like the window frames of the bus just blocking your view as the viewer.
Yeah.
And we cut to the mum who has this... She spends so much of the movie face creased in this courteous happiness just to be around everybody. Her eyes are just squeezed shut from smiling all the time. And we just get a shot of her just looking not just glum, but she looks just empty, staring out at everything.
That's the thing, is these characters, they end up, because they're always locked in these situations, that moments where they actually loosen up are just that will let their guards down are just amazing. Yeah. Like when the dad gets drunk with his old army buddies in the bar, it's just not army buddies, but like government buddies.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's so good to see them just without that mask on all the time, and because Ozu, I think you mentioned being able to access the Kore-eda characters more, and I think Ozu has more restrained emotion. With big smiles hiding a lot of meaning. whilst Kore-eda has those emotions just under the surface, you know, like simmering under there, and you can see it, and it's great. And the characters are more likely to say what they actually mean, albeit later on, and not always to the right person.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. It is, it's really interesting to see that difference, and I wonder if it is a generational thing between these two filmmakers, and it represents sort of how things have shifted a little.
But it is, strikingly similar in places with the, even though the dynamic of the family is different, there are the same disappointments and the same festering disappointments that are just not aired or not communicated or understood well enough by the owner.
Just hinted at. I will say neither film is cold. Both are relatable and at times unbearably dramatic. I teared up in both. In Tokyo Story, I teared up when the dad keeps repeating that line, near the end, and he just keeps saying it to himself over and over when the son is talking to him. That was fucking horrible. And in Still Walking, it was when the widow wife is talking to little Michael Myers about... they're talking about how his dead dad is always going to be a part of him. And that the stepdad is going to gradually become a part of him too. And then the stepdad comes in and they end up laughing together because he doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
That was so good. So, both of these movies really touched me. Again, in spite, on repeat viewing. But you're right. There are important, stuff that it's about as well. Work is important in both. In Tokyo Story, the impact of work on family relationships, specifically the lingering influence of the war and American culture on Japanese family values. One thing I noticed this time around is that all the women have jobs, which is unusual. The daughter works in a hair salon. The widow, Noriko, is working for a tire company, I think.
Yeah. She mentions how she used to work 7 days a week. And
and even their youngest daughter is a school teacher. And only 10 years prior to this, he made a film called Brothers and Sisters of the Toda Family, in which a family similarly face economic hardship, and they briefly consider the idea of the women working, and it's dismissed as something that is, shameful, that they shouldn't do. It's interesting that they've shown that shift in terms of cultural attitudes towards women working in only a 10-year period. Which, obviously desperation necessitated. As all rights are only given over begrudgingly in times of great need. We saw the same here.
Fine.
Have you tried that? Yes, we've tried getting dogs to operate the machines.
I was also going to go to dogs.
I briefly stopped at children, but it was like, no, we did do that. We did do that first.
And it was great. I don't know why we stopped.
Everybody's worse off in Tokyo Story, and so they work harder, and so they don't have time for family. But also the parents are kind of complicit because they have very high expectations for their kids. In spite of the fact they're working all the time, there's still that line where the mother's like, I thought they'd be living closer to the center, or I thought they'd be doing better,
Or the dad says that my doctor's son is only a neighborhood doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
And how disappointing that is.
Conversely, in Still Walking, it's almost like the younger generation doesn't care enough about work. Or certainly the kind of work that the parents respect.
And there's, growth of Japanese cities makes it incredibly hard to find work, to find meaningful work as well. And traditional, jobs are kind of, slipping. It's mentioned that the doctor retired because a massive hospital moves in, so the kind of corner. I did think this movie could almost be a sequel to Tokyo Story if the son who was a doctor, grew up to be the dad in this family. And his two shit sons ended up growing into the dead son and the alive son. Both prominently feature and discuss widows, which is interesting. In both instances, the widows are encouraged to move on, which is against traditional Japanese values, so I think you're just meant to be sad forever. But there's also an expectation that widows should be lonely, and because neither family really wants them. The idea is when you marry, you leave the family you were a part of, if you're a woman, and join the husband's family. And so once the husband's gone, you end up kind of untethered. Not part of either. Okay, so that's what I didn't pick up on that in Tokyo Story. What I got was just a genuine desire for her to be happy as because she was better than their children.
That's what was so interesting. I think that's the only reason. It's because Noriko makes time and is more convenient for the other kids to be like, oh, Noriko can take them, and so they end up establishing the bond that they would all normally have had with their kids. You know? And Still Walking, they don't even invite Junpei's widow to the memorial event because she's just not part of the family anymore. You know,
True.
it's very strange that he has a widow and she's just not invited to this thing.
Yeah.
And they discriminate constantly against Ryo's.
Yeah.
His name is Ryo, and he danced. He actually did dance on the sand.
Yeah.
And they discriminate against him and his wife. For remarrying, and it's considered to be something that's not done.
Yeah. It's interesting. It struck me as incredibly progressive, the mum and dad in Tokyo story. Like their approach there. And I mean, the film itself struck me as way more modern than I was expecting. And I don't know why, but it's the same with picking up David Copperfield or something and finding so much so much in there that's relatable. It's people running around in Tokyo Story just moaning about how busy they are and how they just don't have time for anything. And, family is a botherance. It's better off if they can just ship them off to the Atami Onsen and not have to worry about it, but still pat themselves on the back for having done it. And they can just tick it off. Like
They had a nice time, didn't they? We didn't spend any time, but they had a good time.
Yeah, they had a good time. It was kind of painful thinking about it, to be honest. But And then I thought about calling my mum, and I didn't call her, but I thought about it.
That's great, man. Really. Both, just in terms of the cinema, then before we move on to quick firing, both are fairly basic but effective styles. They both like static cameras, so there's not much movement. In fact, there was only one moment of camera movement in Tokyo Story, and it's a pan, and it's very dramatic as a result.
Whoa.
What the fuck? Cinema! Alright, Kubrick! So, Ozu positions his camera low to mimic a Japanese sitting position, whilst Kore-eda, I found, often had the camera high looking down. More commonly at eye level.
Yeah.
But what's weird is Ozu actually cuts more. He cuts on almost every line of dialogue, and he doesn't do a master shot. So he doesn't have a shot where everybody's in view. Whereas Kore-eda definitely prefers to have master shots. He has quite a few shots where you can see all the people in the scene and where they are in relation to each other. It's interesting. And the effect is, oh god, there's a formalism, like the very rigid styles of poetry to Ozu.
Yeah.
It feels very kind of conservative, but yet he does also break a bunch of rules, without having a master shot to establish who everyone is. Yeah. Having characters speaking to camera now and then.
Yeah.
And breaking the 180-degree rule to just go anywhere. So, yeah, he's very interesting, in which it's like, I don't know, someone who knows the rules incredibly well in order to break them in ways that involve you.
You have to know them first. Alternatively, with Kore-eda, he often focused on the characters that weren't speaking, the ones that weren't taking part in the conversation, and he did that with Ryo, and he did that with the widow's son as well when the others are talking. Yeah, and it just has you thinking about the scene completely differently.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
More than a few times I realized what was going on and how effective that was, how impactful.
Yeah, or sometimes the characters would be talking about someone and we wouldn't be seeing them. And you'd be wondering what their reaction is going to be. Yeah. And you'd think, wow, it would be normal to cut to the mum here for a reaction shot, but we're just sort of left to, pick up on what is said.
Yeah.
And, after the dad says this terrible thing at lunch about widows, we don't actually get a hero shot of, the widow who is present to see her reaction. She's just kind of there in the background. It's really effective in terms of making you sort of engage with the material and sort of peek around the frame looking for looking for what you want to see. Interestingly, both of them use what film critic Neil Birch called pillow shots, a derivative of like pillow words, which I think is a feature of Japanese poetry, where you just put like a few words, like nice words in order to buffer the paragraphs of prose apart. I've probably described that in the most crude way you could possibly imagine.
Is that similar to the haiku where the last line was always "lilies in spring"?
Yeah, something like that. But the idea here is you put a shot of something kind of ambient, like a detail in the scene or, an outside location. Like, do you remember when they're having the horrible night in the spa and they can't sleep and it kept cutting to their sandals outside? Yeah. Just like side by side? It's a little, like, it's not an establishing shot. It's not telling you something you'll need to know later. It's just building a sense of place and pacing.
Yeah. I mean, it really bolsters the cine literacy of Makoto Shinkai. Because he does a similar thing. It's the focus on the blades of grass or on like an old coat can or something on the floor in a
exactly.
Tokyo gutter.
And the effect is it does split the scene up. It makes you reflect on what you've just seen, gives you a chance to do that, and a chance to prepare for what's coming next. It's almost always the worst feature of all of the films that we hate the most is that they just move too quick and there's not enough time to take things in. And this is literally putting in sequences that aren't just like covertly doing that, but are directly doing that. They're literally just saying to you, the movie's paused for a minute, think about this.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Ozu's known for this. Kore-eda, he doesn't so much involve unmotivated imagery, but he utilizes useful imagery in order to give you that opportunity. I absolutely loved the shot of when the family arrive, and they take their shoes off and we're in the entryway with them, and they leave, but the camera lingers in the hall where they were for a bit before we follow them, which further adds this idea to, again, with the house.
Yeah.
This idea that the house is a constant, the town is a constant, the dynamic is kind of a constant. It's just the characters get swept up in it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is all part of something that's not going to change, or can be affected by the characters.
It's wonderful.
One last note is that Ozu is known for his narrative ellipses, which is that he will leave important story beats off screen, and we just hear about them later in dialogue. Most notably in Late Spring, where the whole movie is building towards a wedding, and then it just kind of cuts to after the wedding has already happened.
Okay.
And then dialogue fills in the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
In Tokyo Story, he misses out most of the mother's illness. Of constantly being told, that she had a dizzy spell, when she was on holiday, and that she had to get off the train. We don't actually see any of these things.
Yeah.
In Still Walking, we do
saw
have
the
a
dizzy
move
spell.
Oh, we did see the dizzy spell at the spa, yes. There's a bit where you had to help her up.
Yeah.
In Still Walking, we do have a move forward near the end, but it's then covered with non-diegetic narration.
Yes.
It's still very effective. I mean, my God, it's like a little epilogue, really.
Yeah.
It breaks the structure of we're telling a story in a day in order to, add a little thing to the end that just, it really resolves a lot of the themes. So it's a bit more practical.
And it doesn't. It's not the same as we grew closer over the summer, because it's like a shot across the bow, isn't it? Of what you just saw, because it ends on quite a serene image.
Yeah. My God.
Is it? No, it's the I won't say, but it's the day's over.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
And it is just really lovely, in spite of everything. And then it's tied up kind of. There's a real bittersweet conflict there.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people compare the two directors, but Kore-eda says, I of course take it as a compliment. I try to say thank you, but I think that my work is more like Mikio Naruse, who I've not seen any of the work, apparently does somber working class dramas, and Ken Loach, which is very interesting, because strangely, I don't think I've ever connected to or related to a Ken Loach movie like I have done this movie.
No, I
come out... he's English.
Yeah, I'm feeling... I come out feeling thoroughly upset.
Angry.
And angry, and impotent, and
Loach wants anger. That's the thing, is he wants you to be pissed off about the institutions that... I haven't seen Cares, I must say. I've only seen his more recent political movies.
Yeah.
But there's always a sense of demand better, which I don't feel like Kore-eda is really going for. He's going for, here's how it is.
Yeah.
And that's always what I get from his movies. It's just a sense of, here's how it... Look at Shoplifters, there's every opportunity there for social commentary.
Yeah.
And yet it really just feels like what he's saying is, this is how families go,
It's more the pauses, the spaces are left there for you to surmise. You watch the movie and you go, okay, this is what it is. This is as it is, and then you later go, because the society is structured as so, and so on and so forth. Whereas Ken Loach is very, these are the institutions that are wrecking people and keeping them locked in these.
This is exactly what the problem is.
Yeah. And exactly. And there's a lot of why I shy away from British kitchen sink dramas, because there's very much a sort of grabbing you by the lapels and going, "Isn't this shit?"
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I want more. I need to be engaged by characters, and that's exactly what Still Walking does.
Absolutely. I will, in defense of British kitchen drink dramas.
Yeah.
I recently saw one that is often said to be the very first one. It's J. Lee Thompson's The Woman in the Bathrobe.
Oh, okay.
And it's about Anthony Quayle is he's married and he has a kid and he's having an affair. Yeah. And it's just about the day in which he decides to tell his wife and considers going off with his mistress. And it's just all about that. And it's just really fucking good.
Oh, great. Okay.
Again, it's another one of those things that's made in like 1953, I think. Later than that, actually, 56 or so. And it's just incredible because it's so modern. You just think, Jesus,
right.
people actually made movies about being just unhappy with having a middle-class life back then.
Yeah. So relatable.
There's so much stuff out there. Yeah. But I think the comparison between Kore-eda and Ozu is flattering and well-earned. I think they're similar without Kore-eda being in any way derivative. It's definitely his own thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
Both have just made really melodic and eloquent films that are melancholy, but really empathetic and really, really relatable.
Yeah.
I do think Still Walking is also deserving of classic status because
Absolutely.
it really does feel like something that... It feels like we're seeing something of life rendered in poetic cinema, and I don't think it gets better than that.
No.
Yeah. So I think the conclusion is yes. Yes, it is. Watch it now. It's fucking great.
Please
30
do.
years from now, I'm going to be making anything like this.
Yep.
So you better catch it now. Okay, let's quick fire.
Yeah.
Quick fire.
So this is an interesting one because I gave up trying to know everything that I loved about it because otherwise I will be here for 3 hours.
Fair enough.
I've got more overarching things and a couple of specific moments.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I've got quite... I've done the same, I think.
The dad not wanting to be seen with a shopping bag and wanting to still being called
Yeah.
doctor. Just ever so slightly eccentric and immediately lovable as a concept, I think. That's like the first bit of information you get, really, isn't it?
Yes, there's a lot of hubris for the dad that makes you just love him. Like, he distinguished from the old crank by things like when his daughter... he's just sitting in a chair staring into space, and then the daughter knocks on the door, and suddenly he hurriedly opens up a book to look like he's doing something.
Yeah.
It's Yoshio Harada playing him, and he's just amazing. Him walking away from the family picture is amazing. When it becomes a tiny bit inconvenient, and he's just like, fuck this, and he just wanders off.
And if anything, it would be better for him just to be staring out the window when the daughter comes in, not to be working. It would be less cold. I
love his method of walking. He just has this great sort of slow, I'm storming out, but it's going to take me a while, and I don't care kind of thing. I don't care that this is going to take you a while to not see me. I really liked when he was clearly upset about Grandma's house. Like, there's a little... We're seeing him, and the kids call it Grandma's house, and he sort of pauses. He does later mention it, but I really liked the sort of quietness of him just... Like, immediately you're like, oh, he's not going to like that it's like Grandma's house. But yeah, conversely, when he smiles at his grandson, this is a really lovely moment. And, a really lovely moment later on when he's telling the son to call home more often, and the son says, all she does when she calls me is complain, i.e. about you. And he says, be patient and hear her out. And it's just like, he knows that he's a pain to live with, and he wants her to have someone to complain to.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is nice. Or another instance of the first bit of information, the scene with Rio on the train with his wife and stepson. They're on the train, the scene starts, and he like shows, or he's on the phone, and then he goes, okay, so we can get the last train home tonight.
Yeah.
And there's a pause, and she goes, no, we agreed that we'd stay overnight. And just in that instance, you get so much from the fact that he's not communicating with his family at the moment because he's on his phone trying to find a way of getting away from his parents quicker than they agreed, and then her having to remind him of that.
Yeah.
It just communicates so much in the first 5 seconds of knowing these characters.
And immediately after, the son calls him by his first name, calls him Rio, and that's also fantastic because it's like that communicates. Oh, it's not his kid,
Yeah. There's something in that exchange as well because he complained that his dad still thinks he's a baseball fan.
Yeah.
And will want to talk to him about baseball. And that's when he looks up and goes, did you like baseball? And he has this weird, like, uncomprehending expression on his face.
Yeah.
It's just great. It just describes I guess, if you don't mind, leading into the next scene is when they're at a sort of a diner having lunch. And the kid comes back with a cola and ginger so like mixed. Yeah. And the wife suddenly goes, "Oh, you can drink them separately. Don't act so poor." Yeah. and then bam again.
Yeah, she's trying to impress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of something this person stands for. And this is it. It's just 5 minutes into the movie. 3 minutes of that was a lovely, serene walk from the dad.
Yeah.
That's 3.5 minutes, and then
Yeah.
the other 90 seconds, you just suddenly know all the characters better than you know your friends.
Well, speaking of whom, I really love the daughter played by the daughter Chinami, played by Yukiko Ihara, credited as Yu and often known as Yu. She's really good. She's been in his previous work. She was in Nobody Knows, which was really great. She played a very reckless and irresponsible mother very effectively, and it was just great to see her still having this kind of chaotic energy and bringing it to a family dynamic. She lies to the son to make him feel better. The son is saying, oh, is everybody judging my wife for being a widow? And she says, no, she's great. She's wasted on you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the only way she can compliment is to insult him. And then later on when he knocks his head, far from like, oh, are you okay? Oh, sorry about that. It's just, you're too big.
Yeah.
I love that. That was very relatable.
Yeah, that's great. And he was too big. He's wonderfully tall.
He was far too big.
And such an interesting, handsome man.
Yeah.
I really liked Hiroshi Abe.
Oh, he's brilliant. I thought he was really good at being a father to his kids and a kid to his parents.
Yes. Yeah, he
That
was.
was really good. Hiroshi Abe. Yeah, he had a great voice. I love his voice.
最終で帰ろうかやっぱり8時に向こう出れば余裕で間に合うでしょ
He was just very sullen with his dad.
Yeah.
Well, some great scenes with him. When and soon Rio will become a part of you, and then he comes in and goes a part of me, or he says,
Yeah.
no, she says, where are you going to let him in?
Yeah.
口から何を
おへそかな
おへそおへそからじわじわ
But the other moment would be in the bath when they have a bath together, and the stepson is trying to like pinch a mole on his hand, and he says, "Oh, if I can pinch it, I'll get rich." And after a moment, Rio goes, "Did Grandma tell you that?" And he nods.
Yeah.
And then they start bonding about the fact they were both told it and how he used to squeeze his mole. And then they're in the bath doing that. It's a really sweet and very human moment. Anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely, it really is. Yeah. Some really good looking food. In particular, the corn tempura that they make. Oh
God, yeah.
Just really lovely, crunchy looking. I guess like corn fritters. Just look really nice.
And just always talking about the best way to prepare it, or the best time, the best corn tempura they've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, the way in which the food kind of relates to their lives. And the movie starts with a neighbor telling the doctor, I can't eat much anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like food and the vibrancy of food is very much connected with youth and family and such. And that's, really lovely.
Yeah. The dinner scene, as it's petering out, there's the like piñata in the background. It changes perspective, and suddenly we've got the outside happening in the background. And there's just the juxtaposition of the very, very still dinner where like Rio had to suffer a couple of digs at his widowed wife, and eventually it leads to the dad asking him more about his job, and it's just the two of them in there now. And then he asks how much he's earning, and that's when Rio mutters enough to support a single widowed mum.
Yeah.
But before that, I just loved the scene setting of the still dinner, the very fraught dynamic between everybody, and the kids just fucking around and hitting the very expensive plant.
Yeah. No. And him just gradually, slowly getting up, walking over to the window, yelling at them, and then coming back slowly and sitting down again, all in one shot.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Coming back right to the beginning, I really like the title coming up, Over the Little Town, with the train running through it. It felt like a Ghibli film in that moment, just full of warmth, and with that score, it just...
Yeah, the score was very Joe Hisaishi.
Yeah. Just wonderful. And the town looked great in general.
Yeah.
Whether it be that cemetery on the hill, or the bridge even...
Yeah.
This really utilitarian thing. It just all really bespoke small suburban area in Japan, and I really loved that.
Yeah. When the widowed mum is being asked questions about Rio's job, and she knows nothing about it because he's lying about having all this work anyway. She keeps getting asked these questions, and she just looks like panicked into space because she doesn't have any information to give them. She hasn't like thought of a lie. And then the grandma will say something innocuous, and the widowed mom is kind of on the cusp of a lie, but then she just starts nodding instead, like along with what the grandma's saying. And every single time she does it, it's like 3 or 4 times. It's just wonderfully seamless. Incredible piece of physicality, I guess.
Yeah, really understated performance from that character.
Yeah.
I think she's, plays such a small part in things, and yet is really embodying a lot of what being an interloper kind of into this scenario would actually feel like.
Which is actually you're the adhesive. You're just trying to keep everybody together by niceties and like.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess you are right. It is hard being a widow.
You're the only one who doesn't have like a personal stake in everything falling to shit.
Yeah.
Or a grudge to bury,
Yeah.
Or if I let that go by unchallenged, it's going to ruin this thing that happened 18 years ago.
Yeah.
There's none of that baggage. I really like, there's a bit where they're talking about the sushi restaurant down the street and how the son took over after the dad retired and now it's not as good. It feels like a crucial bit of like theming there about the intergenerational nature of things and how the parents feel about, the world being handed over to the next generation.
Yeah. The youth are always on their phones.
Too busy to make sushi good. I can make sushi good in Sushi Chef 2009, the hit new game on my mobile.
Look at it. It's loud.
Gives me points. I love points. Can't you pretend that money you make from making good sushi is points? No,
because I have to then spend the points.
I just want to have them and know I'm great.
Put it on a board so everybody knows I've made the most points. The whole scene with the oh god, I wish I could remember their names, but the stepson and the granddad, starting with the little bow that he gives him when he's got that dessert in one hand. It's a very awkward thing. And the granddad asking him about the piano tuner, and he says the reason he wanted to become a piano tuner was because of his music teacher. Yeah, and the granddad says, "Oh, any man who bases his career on of a woman, is
assuming she's a woman."
Yeah. Does she say? Do they
he's
establish? Anyway,
unless there's something about the language that implied that it was a female music teacher. I think he does then follow it up with that. But
and then he takes his hands and he starts explaining, why it would be good of him to be a doctor instead, which was just hilarious in itself because it was so circuitously arrived at, and then but then it does cut to Hiroshi Abe just in the doorway, glaring at his dad. So the whole scene is wonderful. Just layers of it.
It's really good. Oh, it's fucking adorable. Everybody comments on how tall the daughter's daughter has gotten. The first time this comment is made, she stretches in order to show off her height to everybody. It's just incredibly adorable. And later on, the kids will go out and play. I misread the subtitle. I thought it said we're going to go play in traffic or something. I think they said we're going to go play down the road or something. Just them playing together, doing this weird stomping game with the guitar playing. It's just really serene and beautiful.
Yeah, the mum dumping someone else's flowers from the grave to make room for their own.
Yeah, fucking hell.
It was just so cold. But
is it those flowers that later on she goes and crams into a roadside shrine?
Yeah, they're walking home and she stops at another grave,
right?
Just some unknown grave, and dumps them there.
Neil Morrissey's grave.
Yeah, she's an unmarked Neil Morrissey's grave, and she doesn't dump the flowers. She looks like she's kind of arranging them. So there's there's still respect of the dead there, but there's something so disrespectful about removing the flowers in the first place and then just dumping them at some rando's grave.
Just incredibly pragmatic, Well, our flowers won't fit.
Yeah.
I really loved the daughter's husband. He doesn't come up much. He's in the background a lot. But he's just this lovely kind of goofball kind of guy. And my favourite moment of his is obviously the bit after the son has caused a lot of tension in the room by not wanting to join in and disrespecting the guy that their son died saving. Yeah. And he comes in and just said, I heard worthless and pig and thought you were talking about me.
Yeah.
So I decided to hide in there.
Yeah.
Just so self-deprecating. It really took me by surprise the first time I saw this.
Yeah, that was really funny. I mean, the scene with the boy... Anyway, it starts with this, this guy, he's overweight and he's trying really hard to be courteous, and he's a real, just trying so hard to be liked. He's drenched in sweat. They clearly just tipped a bucket over his shirt before they started filming. And he's talking about, how things aren't going great for him, and then only after about a minute is the line, ever since Junpei saved me.
Yeah.
And you just go, oh fuck, that's what this is. Oh my god! And then the realization and the just misery washed over me as you realize why he's there and what he's trying to justify and
how they were feeling.
Oh god, it was horrible. It was just it was bad enough because he's talking about how it's hard to find meaningful work, and he's helping out at an ad agency, so maybe they'll give me a job one day.
Oh god. And then
only
it's not an ad agency. He's like making pamphlets for washing machines or something.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah. It was very depressing, that whole. A much less depressing sequence is when the mother is giving the daughter-in-law, the widow, her kimonos, and suggesting, and it's now suggesting that the two of them have a baby. First of all, giving the kimonos, a lovely echoing of a much worse sequence in Tokyo Story, like deliberately worse. Where one of the daughters is just really and inhumanly fucking rude.
Yeah.
And here it's a lovely sort of reversal of that.
Yeah.
But also just this is a moment where now the mother is being nice to the widow's daughter, stepdaughter, daughter-in-law, sorry. And it's a really interesting thing because as the evening wears on, people get more tired and either the fights get worse or they just stop because people are too tired to carry them on.
Yeah.
And this was very much a case of just the old grudges kind of wear off, and it's just another person here.
Yeah.
And so she's nice to them, and that was lovely.
Yeah. She still couldn't help being a mum. There was still quite a lot in that scene of that was just painful, but
yeah, little moments, little needles.
Oh, she meant well, did Mum.
But then she ends the scene by being like, "Oh, let me find you a sash that'll go well with that."
Just
kind of thing.
kind of oblivious to the pain she's caused by talking. I guess this is one of the pillow shots of the mother knitting, just a really hypnotic quality to it, the intricacy of it.
As they're chasing the butterfly, it's a rare moment of handheld camera work, and I thought that was really good.
Oh,
it's
cool.
kind of ethereal.
Yeah.
It's like it breaks this incident has broken their perspective of things.
Yeah, cool. Okay. There's a moment where the granddad, he gets a call from that neighbor who needs to go to the hospital, and he tells her to call an ambulance. And then he goes out and he's trying to ask about her condition, and the paramedics just keep telling him to stand back and to get out of their way. And there's something really meaningful there about
it's vulnerability.
Yeah. Vulnerability and just the sort of meaninglessness of his life in the face of these strangers and these young strangers as well.
Yeah.
It was quite... I just don't want to say effective or impactful again. But
Yeah.
it was both of those.
Good.
Yeah, it was very good.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
I really like the bird sounds and the light during their morning walk.
Yeah.
It's just really beautifully evocative, and then the actual visit to the beach is beautifully serene and really reminds me. It reminded me of the journey to the shrine in Your Name, like the same sort of deliberate attention to the journey and the time it takes to get there, as well as the just ethereal beauty of this location. Just really shone through.
Yeah,
I really loved that.
It's about the journey, not just the destination, man.
Well, exactly. Destination's just an upturned boat.
Later on that night, the stepson goes out and he has a real personal moment. It's really special.
Yeah.
That reveals quite a lot about his choices and the things he said earlier in the day.
Yeah.
It's incredibly sweet, and it's just a wonderful glimpse. It's like that, like suddenly using a handheld camera. Just suddenly you're getting a glimpse into this kid's life, and you weren't expecting it, and it really takes you by surprise.
Just a new perspective.
Yeah.
Remembering the name of the sumo wrestler when he does is perfect.
Yeah.
It transports you. It links the scene back to the lunch scene the previous day, and thinking of how far away that suddenly feels.
Yeah.
That moment of sort of the chaos of the shared family moment contrasted with when it's happening.
Yeah.
That he remembers this name is beautiful.
Yeah.
And his comment that he's always just a little bit late is just beautiful. The fact that he's just always just a little too late to get into the spirit of things.
Yeah.
Deliberately not giving himself the time to really get into the family dynamic.
Yeah.
It's just really touching, really moving.
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a really lovely shot when they're walking down to the beach, the granddad, dad, and stepson. Because it's just the three generations of men going downstairs in order of age, in ascending order of age
Yeah.
for a long time, but then it stops because the dad gets a phone call or a text, and he stops to take the message, and the others continue walking, which I guess does tie into what you just said about never really buying into the family thing, and trying to go once a year, and really trying to not make it any more than that. Just a lovely little shot that really gets that across.
Absolutely. I did love his phone, though. In one respect, there's something uniquely horrible about watching characters in films answer phones or look at phones. There's a whole nerd writer on this, actually. It's something that genuinely causes us distress to see a character looking at a phone, which is very revealing, actually. But his phone was of a vintage that whenever you opened it, it made a sort of tinkling noise, and when you closed it, it made a tinkling noise.
Yeah.
And I think I might have known someone with that kind of phone, because it just suddenly really took me back to sort of the late aughts.
Oh, great!
It just that was good. But my final one actually is I really liked the sort of eldest son at the very end going along with the butterfly myth.
It's exactly what I was going to say. My last one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What a wonderful way of just. I mean, you can't really talk about it without saying more about the context in which it's in, but it's just a beautiful way of demonstrating how things carry on and how memories work as well.
It's like an allowance to his parent, his mum's parenting, and to an acknowledgement of the importance of her role, I guess.
And him finally getting into the spirit of something. Yeah. You know, does it matter if it doesn't quite sound right? No, there's a more important quality to this myth than that. It's going to go along with that now. Yeah. And it's just, really love it. And that is just about all we have to say about absolutely excellent movie Still Walking.
Yeah, please go and watch it.
Please go and watch it. Did anyone actually hit us up via social media about having seen it? And what I'm asking, of course, is really, what about the OG team?
Those lovable OG teams. No one from the OG team.
Oh, no.
That's okay.
Well, look.
I hadn't seen it.
Well, you hadn't seen it? I still haven't seen it. I lied. I was bluffing the whole time. Yeah. Absolutely, please go and watch Still Walking and Tokyo Story. Both just astoundingly well-accomplished films that I think complement each other really well. But also, all of this was partially an experiment to see if we could make good content out of talking about a good film for a change. So please do let us know if this episode worked for you. And if you'd like to hear more of this sort of thing. Yeah. Our next one is going to be something a bit more Western and a bit more contemporary. Yeah, some sort of weird musical. But until then, how can people find out about our usual smelly butt produce?
We are farting all day and all night on Twitter and Facebook at OGT Pod. If by farts you mean using it to update you on episodes and putting the call out for the OG team.
Yeah, farts.
Speaking of the OG team, some of those OG team are patrons, and you could be too, where for as little as $1 a month, you get exclusive... You get more content of me trying to struggle around this mucosal sac in my mouth.
We're going to be putting constant updates regarding that thing, pictures, videos. 24-hour webcam.
Interview with the doctor who first diagnosed it. He wishes he'd never done it, but don't we
like
all?
Me.
Yeah, and so find out more about that there, but also get exclusive content such as our sneak peek preview on Cut and Raw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. Halloween special episode. We are in the midst of Storytime 2, Tom Hanks' Perfect World, and we're $2 away, but two from our D&D Roulette one-shot, where we'll be getting some of our bestest podcast friends to come and have a good fun fantasy time with us for you.
It's going to be a fun fantasy time, and I don't think you can really argue with that.
And now, if you become a patron $5 and up, you get merch. We've got merch. We've got our horrible faces on a mug, so you can be reminded of the painfulness of existentialism every time you take a sip of your morning coffee.
That's what I want.
We've got our faces on a t-shirt, so you can go walk around and people go, "What the fuck is that? You loser, you sexy, sexy loser."
You want that.
And a sticker. So if you want to get any of that, then do what I just said. Get on Patreon.
You know you do.
Oh, you know.
No, you do.
Cordell.
Fantastic. I'm Paul Cordell.
I'm the real Slim Cordell.
And remember, the one great thing about great movies Still Walking is that it's almost as good as another movie that a bunch of people decided is great.
Almost.
Maybe better? Maybe.
I'd say so.
I don't know. Go back and listen to this episode, you'll see. That's right, we're plugging this episode.